2020 is nearing its end and, wow, it's been a good one. Not really. But with the armada of lockdowns, many of us have been able to catch up on our ever-growing backlogs of games, a true first world problem. And despite getting quite serious with YouTube over that period, I've actually played more JRPGs this year than any other. And I thought, why not share the best games I've played during that time? Now, I will say that these aren't JRPGs that have released in 2020, they are simply the titles that I have played in 2020. As such, there unfortunately is no Final Fantasy VII Remake or Xenoblade Chronicles on this list because I haven't had the time to try them. Also, I'll be limiting my rankings to one per franchise because otherwise my allegiance to Trails will just take over. So without further ado, let's get rolling. These are the top 5 JRPGs that I have played in 2020. Number 5. Ys Memories of Celceta. Ys is a series that is dear to me. Origin was the first Falcom game that I ever played, and I just fell in love with the fast-paced action and banging soundtrack, a staple of this long-running flagship of the company. The story wasn't too bad either, so it was only natural that my fondness of these games drew me to a surprise release that went under the radar for some. Of course, I'm referring to Ys Memories of Celceta for PlayStation 4. Falcom decided to release a remastered version of the 4th canonical title back in 2019, and Xseed, who still had the localization rights, compounded that effort, bringing it to the West in June of 2020. And it's pretty much what any fan of Ys would expect. An enjoyable journey that occurs because Adol has somehow got himself in trouble again. Are we sure he's not a masochist at this point? In all seriousness, Memories of Celceta was a pleasant experience. For one thing, it wasn't too long, it only took me 27 hours to beat, which was mightily welcome at that point in time, and it's delivered on all the aspects that make an Ys game stand out. The story was fairly basic, but was made up for with decent pacing, the Forest of Celceta was a great location to explore, the characters were likeable, soundtrack was top notch as you would expect, and of course the combat was fluid, fast, and extremely fun. And that's what Ys consistently delivers on. You pretty much know what you're going to get when you insert the CD. I don't do digital, guys. Though Memories of Celceta is admittedly not the best title I've played in the series, it deserves a spot on this list nonetheless, such as the quality of the games in general. Number 4. Tokyo Xanadu EX+. In a genre that's normally filled to bursting with sword-wielding babes and godlike beings, it's nice to play something a little more normal. Well, as normal as alternate universes in modern-day Tokyo can be. Tokyo Xanadu EX Plus is a game that I initially stopped playing back in 2019 because I was too eager to start playing Zero no Kiseki, which is a crying shame because the latest game in the Xanadu series can more than hold its own amongst Falcom's other juggernauts. I'm happy that I came back to it and gave it a proper shot this year. Compared to many other JRPGs I've played, Tokyo Xanadu EX Plus was a breath of fresh air. A modern setting as opposed to a fantasy world was a welcome change of pace, and I loved the little Falcom Easter eggs sprinkled all over the world. It made exploration that much more engrossing. But what I loved the most about Tokyo Xanadu EX Plus is that it took an element from Cold Steel 1 and 2 and just made it better. Though the bonding events are still present in this game, I feel the side stories were a brilliant addition for this enhanced version, as it lended to the chemistry between the group, something which I feel Cold Steel 1 and 2 lacked. By taking us away from the main character and allowing us to see the bonds between the other members, it contributed to the unique relationships between certain party members rather than just having a centralised figure who had everything happen around them. As a result, Tokyo Xanadu's main cast, despite only having one game to shine, had a lasting impression on me, and it's no wonder that I felt I was obligated to make a review on it where I sung its praises. Here's hoping that this particular franchise is revisited by Falcom in the near future. Number 3. Atelier Ryza. My first delve into the Atelier series was far from disappointing. I'd looked from afar for a fair number of years at Gust's long-running franchise and found myself intrigued on several occasions, but I never took that leap to see if the games would click for me. That all changed with Atelier Ryza, which originally released back in 2019. I went into this game with a tempered expectation. Whereas many other games that I enjoy are rich in story with a stellar cast of characters to boot, I felt I had to brace myself for a different experience in Atelier Ryza, as its appeal comes from something decidedly different. The game takes a subsystem that many other titles overlook and makes it the main focus of the experience. The core of Atelier Ryza lies in crafting, named as alchemy within the universe. I'm a big fan of how you can spend hours upon hours just crafting and finding new recipes. It's a surprisingly addictive system. Not only that, but the game rewards you for your time, as progress and the ability to access hidden areas is also tied to this system. Creating certain items will allow you to find more gathering materials, which gives you the chance to make even more exotic items, which aids you on your journey. It's kind of like a chain reaction of events, and you can visibly see the payoff. But my favourite aspect of Atelier Ryza lies in its overall atmosphere. You don't feel stressed playing this game, it's very relaxing, and sometimes that's what I need. Instead of having those heavy-hitting moments where my heart feels like it's been ripped out and offered to the god of feels, it's nice at times to just have a comfortable experience tied in with a wholesome adventure, and that's what this game does. And now that I have finally had the chance to play it, I can't wait for the second game to release next month. A lot of the better aspects of this game appear to have been expanded upon further in its sequel, and I'm all down for that. Number 2, Persona 5 Royal. Over 100 hours of gameplay and I still hadn't touched on everything. Like Atelier Ryza, Persona 5 Royal was my first experience of the Persona franchise, but this game had a much harder task in impressing me because of the universal praise that it received. Hype can kill a game, we've seen it many a time, very recently in fact. Needless to say, it did not happen here. Persona 5 Royal took me by the nuts and didn't let go. Despite having one of the worst boss fights in gaming period, fuck this guy, that is the only negative I could think of when I look back on my playthrough. The story is deep and thought-provoking, the characters are rooted in common societal problems within Japan which makes them more relatable, and their growth is well paced. The voice acting is amazing, it oozes a unique style, the music is killer, and the combat is my personal favourite iteration of any turn-based style I've ever played. Everything about Persona 5 Royal is a joy. It's so well polished from minute 1 to hour 100, and funnily enough, because I played this game blind, I completely missed the extra content that comes with this re-release, which easily adds another 20 hours on top. In a time when a AAA experience can be completed in less than 10 hours, the value on offer from P5R is insane. I cannot doubt the people who believe this game to be one of the best in the genre. It does pretty much everything right, and it's well deserving of second spot on my personal list. Honourable mention. Before moving on to number 1, I want to give one honourable mention, and yes, I am cheating a bit here because it's not a JRPG in the strictest sense. But it is a type of RPG, and it is Final Fantasy. I'm talking about Final Fantasy XIV Shadowbringers, though I'm only up to Stormblood at the moment. I would feel dirty if I didn't mention this game. Back when I was 14 all the way to 18, I was hooked on World of Warcraft. I would spend an unhealthy amount of time on it. Literally, my life was coming home, do homework, and play WoW all the way to bedtime. And ever since I quit the game, I've been looking for another MMO to take the mantle, something that I can truly get invested in for the long term. And I've tried to find it. Guild Wars 2, Ion, Terra, going back to WoW, none of them struck that spark and I almost gave up looking. I almost gave up until I found Final Fantasy XIV. I've never seen an MMO that can seamlessly meld RPG elements within it. The amount of content, even for a free-to-play player, is ludicrous, and that's only got better with the addition of its first expansion, Heaven's Ward, to that mix, which combines to well over 100 hours of free content if you're just focusing on the main story. Never has a game like this made me feel so invested in my character. I care for my character in this game, the journey that they are having and the multi-dimensional problems they solve as a warrior of light. But outside of that, there's just tons of stuff to do. You have a multitude of jobs, so you can essentially play everything on one character. You have mini-games, housing, raids, dungeons, heck, some players simply enjoy making their character look as badass or cute as possible. The community is surprisingly pleasant for an MMO as well. People are willing to help at a moment's notice. The combat strikes a good balance in that it is simple to grasp but difficult to master the job you've taken. Honestly, if you're looking for an MMO to play during this difficult period and you're strapped for ideas, play this one. You don't even have to spend a dime to give it a go, it's all free for the first 60 levels. Just jump into Eorzea and get hooked like the rest of us. Amazing game. Number 1, The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 4. Yeah, I think many of my frequent viewers knew exactly what was coming in at my top spots, and though I have also played Hajimari no Kiseki this year, it was always going to be the final entry in the Erebonian arc. My number 1 JRPG of 2020 is Cold Steel 4. Of course, it released late in 2020 for Western audiences on PlayStation 4 and is later slated to come to PC and Switch in early 2021. I fortunately have had the pleasure of playing this game twice, once in Japanese back in July and once in English, which I have recently completed. And it truly was an experience like no other. Trails of Cold Steel 4 feels like a reward as a fan of Trails, a nod to the supporters who have been on the train since all the way back in the Sky Arc, a journey that started innocently enough with two siblings looking to become bracers. I've long held the belief that the world building and interconnectivity of the Trails series is unrivaled. No other JRPG series can match its scale, and Cold Steel 4 capitalises on the strongest traits of this special franchise to deliver a fulfilling conclusion to this particular chapter of the Trails narrative. Cold Steel 4, including itself, is the culmination of 9 games worth of storytelling. It brings together so many beloved characters of the series to face a situation that threatens the entire continent, even drawing on and expanding some long-running story arcs from previous titles. Seeing all of these characters coming together, these individuals who we have witnessed the growth of firsthand and watching them work towards a common goal, it's a feeling that I will likely never get from any other series. Even small moments found from exploring the world are given that much more significance when you realise the weight and meaning behind them. There is so much below the surface in this game. Add on to that one of the most fulfilling finales in any game I've ever played, and it's no wonder that Cold Steel 4 is my second favourite game in the series, just behind Ao no Kiseki. Everything was as I wanted it to be, it delivered on all aspects and exceeded them. A truly special game, well deserving of my personal top spot. And now that Cold Steel is done, Hajimari no Kiseki will hopefully get a localization soon if we're lucky, and on top of that, the new arc in Kuro no Kiseki has recently been announced as well, taking us one step closer to this story's ultimate conclusion. It really is a great time to be a Trails fan. And that is it guys, my top 5 JRPGs of the year with a little bit added in for good measure. It's been a tough year for many of us, but JRPGs really allow us to escape from the monotony of day-to-day life, and heck, we've needed that this year. Thank you for watching, have a great Christmas and New Year's, and see you for 2021. Peace.